Welcome to the fourth episode of Kehwa on the Couch. Our guest today is an author, is a blogger, is a theatre producer, is a playwright, screenplay writer, a mother, a friend, a daughter, a wife, and sometimes all of these at once. She's a gypsy soul. She's a hustler like me. She's a funny woman with a dry sense of humor. He is Fiona Leonard, and she's a puglet. Welcome to the show, Fiona!
So excited to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
My absolute pleasure.
I remember that the first time we met was actually a meetup about a short film that we were going to make together, which we eventually did. And it was very exciting for me because it was the first time I was meeting a bunch of people who wanted to make a short film, like for professionally.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be an actor and an entertainer, but I never knew the ways and know-hows about it. So I was really excited, and I started with my long introduction, and in my head it was such an interesting and exciting introduction.
It was very memorable. Yes.
And then after I was done, others, including yourself, you started giving your introductions, and I was like, I know nothing here. I'm such a naive person. I have no idea how these things work, and I'm sitting amongst professionals, and I was floored, petrified, to be honest, a little bit. But at the same time, the way you spoke, the way you listened to my excitement, I knew it was going to be interesting to work with you because there was so much that I'm going to learn from you, and it has been a fun ride. So we've had many conversations in the past, but I want...
Never on the couch.
Never on the couch. And I want you to share your story with my audience who are known as Team Puglets.
Wow. Well, I've been in Germany for just over 18 months. It's one of those crazy things where people say to you, how long have you been here? You go, I've been 6 months. And then eventually you realise actually it's been 18 months. Most people seem to have come to Germany either for jobs or falling in love with someone. We came to Germany following our daughter, who also is involved in theatre. She got an opportunity to work with a theatre company here. And we came originally for 4 months and then went, oh, we really like it. So, but to Düsseldorf, not to Cologne. And so we stayed on, and we've been there very happily ever since, and gradually working our way into the community and building a network of people. So yeah, it's
nice. Yeah. So before we start, let's drink some Kehwa, because it's Kehwa on the couch. Cheers.
Cheers.
So we already had a conversation, and I told her about this tea. So it's a green tea from Kashmir, my homeland.
It smells amazing.
And it's really good during the winters especially. So nothing like having a conversation on the couch and some tea. So cheers.
That's right. Cheers. Nice.
Do you like it?
I would have come just for the tea.
Do you like it?
I do.
I'm so happy that all 4 of my guests so far, they've loved this tea, and it's so nice to, introduce you to a different kind of a tea from India. I mean, there's so many teas from India, but this is really special because it comes from my homeland.
Embarrassing if someone took a mouthful of tea and spat it on the carpet.
It's awesome!
What's it like? It's fabulous!
In your introduction, I already mentioned so many things that you can do, and that's one of the...
Sounds like I have a short attention span. Oh.
And that's one of the reasons, I really admire you because you do so many things and you manage to do it so well. Is there something that you cannot do?
It's actually one of the things I find as I'm getting older, I'm becoming more and more confident about saying, I can't do this, I don't want to do this. Especially when I lived on my own, I would go, no, I can do all my own home maintenance, like I can hotwire things, and now I just go, I'm a disaster at that, and that's fine. I will say, I'm a woman of many talents, but this is not one of them.
Fair enough.
So home maintenance, yes.
Home maintenance.
I tend to just take a duct tape approach, like, just stick it together and it'll be fine.
So amongst all these roles, which is your favorite one? And please say writer, because I have so many questions listed already, because if you didn't say writer, it would be really odd because I have to be really spontaneous, and that's like a lot of pressure on... No, I'm kidding.
Okay, probably writer. Yeah, that's definitely... No, it's funny because I wanted to be a writer from when I was a teenager. I actually got very sick when I was in my second last year of high school. and I went to school maybe 2 days a week for an entire year. And I wrote a lot. I used to write romance novels, actually. It's the one and only time I've written romance novels. And I loved it. That was really kept me sane for that year.
Do you recall any moment when you thought, yeah, I just want to be a writer. This is what I want to do.
I think I always wanted to do it, but I never really believed it could be a viable career. It always sort of felt like that was what I loved, but I should do something sensible. And so I should have the sensible job, or I should go in a normal career path. Damn, I really love writing, and if only I could come back to that.
If you now meet someone who's a teenager and who loves writing and would want to make a career out of it, and you know, what advice would you give that person? Like
to read. To read and to keep writing, and to do what you need to do to survive, like to be able to pay bills, to be able to buy food and pay the rent. It was something we've been talking about in the past of that you have dreams and it looks very easy on the surface, and you're like, yeah, and everybody's like, oh my god, it's so amazing, and look how easy it is. You're like, yeah, but we have like €5 in the bank. So I think it's that doing what you need to do to keep going, but to keep writing, and you have to keep writing and you have to get better at it. And I think it's very important that you look back in your life and look at what you've written and say, this was terrible, because if you're not having those moments, then you haven't improved.
Exactly.
And to trust yourself that it's okay to be learning. That's been one of the biggest things for me, is to get to a point to say, I'm not precious about what I write. I will tear it up, I will throw stuff away, I will change it, I will edit it, because I know I've got more writing in me, that it's not this story is the one and only story and it has to be perfect. It's, you write it, you get it down, you show it to people you trust. That's something we can come back to. Okay. But yeah, you need to get it out there, you need to get it read, you need to get feedback, you need to do things with your writing, you need to give it a life outside your drawer, and it needs to evolve. But reading as well, like you can't be a good writer if you don't read. You have to read widely, you have to read out of your comfort zone. Reading is one of the best ways to improve your writing skills, because you just absorb it. Like, you get used to hearing well-written text, you get used to understanding grammar.
Tell us about your writing process. How is it?
It's changed over the years. I'm not a particularly disciplined writer. I did a thing called National Novel Writing Month a few years ago. I got up every morning and I'd write from 6 till 9, and very diligently, and it was great. Like, that was how I finished my novel. I had about 20,000 words written. I wrote 70,000 words in 6 weeks.
Wow.
Just like,
That's
powered through.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
You never faced the very famous writer's block?
Oh yes, all the time. But writer's block, I think, is one of those things that writer's lack of confidence, is that point where you get to the stage of going, no one will ever read it, no one cares, oh, why am I bothering, I should just go and lie on the floor and look sad for a couple of hours. There's always something that you can be doing to move your writing forward. The trap is to then go and do research. Research is the death of productivity.
I know.
I just need to read 5 more articles.
Or I just need to see like few YouTube videos and I'll get ideas, and then I end up watching cat videos. Yeah,
watch a few more videos, and then I need to do some research, and I probably need to do a couple of courses, and study for like 6 months before I could even start writing. Yeah, exactly. So.
Tell us about your childhood. Do you remember something that your mother always used to say?
It's actually it's funny that you should ask that. I'm working on a play at the moment called 100 Mothers. I wrote it last year. My mother died in February last year, and I had to go back to Australia, and I had this quite surreal experience. My mother was cremated, and I had to take her ashes. I went on a road trip with my mother's ashes, basically. And my girlfriend's on the phone, and she's like, you have to write a story about this, you have to write a novel about this. Like, I can't talk about it. And eventually, a couple of months later, I sat down and I wrote this play. And it was funny, my husband read it for the first time a couple of days ago. And I said, what did you think? And he's like, you've worked through a lot of issues in this play, haven't you? It's there's a lot that's familiar in it. So it's funny because I know very much about the stories that we tell about our parents, and particularly that mother-daughter relationship. And that's one of the things I love about writing stories where you can insert yourself into it. Like there's one of the male characters, or the only male character in the play, talks about how his mother always said to him, when you cook with tomatoes, you should always use sugar. And you should always put a teaspoon of sugar in. And this was one of the things my mum always sort of said, that because my mum was a very good cook.
Okay. Yeah, even my mom, she's a great cook, and she always says that, you know, if you don't put your heart into cooking, like it's gonna be a disaster. So, you know.
Have you read like Water for Chocolate?
No.
You must read that. Make a note of that.
Yes, I will definitely. I'm going to get a lot of recommendations from you today. But for now, let's talk about your book, The Chicken Thief. And tell us a fun fact about your book.
It's a political thriller set in Southern Africa, but it's about a young guy who accidentally rescues a war hero of someone. And one of his skills is that he can hypnotise chickens. Like, for a long time, my book in my head when I was working on it was called How to Hypnotise Chickens. So it was great go back to research. I spent a lot of time watching videos on how to hypnotise chickens. It's fascinating. President Al Gore in the US is actually an expert chicken hypnotiser. So I discovered. That's your trivia for today.
Yeah. So if you're interested, please go watch How to Hypnotize a Chicken, and then go and read Fiona's book, The Chicken Thief. That's an interesting fun fact.
Oh, random trivia is my life.
You are a freelancer, right? And so am I. So I often wonder, like, you know, when you do a 9-to-5 job, after a certain point, you become very robotic about it. Not in a negative way, but like, you know, you master it. But when you're a freelancer, you have to put in different energies in different things. Sometimes it's happening all at once. I break down at least once a month. Like, that's my record so far. Like,
that was a good month.
Yeah, it's a good month if I only have one nervous breakdown. Does it happen to you? Like, how do you handle that pressure?
Yeah, I think I go through phases where I'm just like, I should just quit now. It's terrible. Why am I bothering? I don't think I tend to have a breakdown a month now. I think my
2 months?
Well, no, I think I work very.
Come on, give me something.
No, it's coming.
I'm feeling very miserable.
No, I tend to work very intensely. Like, we were talking about having routines. Like, I'm not someone who gets up and works every day, like for a set amount of time. I wrote 2 plays last year in just over a month, and it was just working sort of manically. I finished one play and I actually went to bed for a day. Like, I spent the next day in bed because I felt like I'd scraped out the inside of my head. I don't necessarily have breakdowns, but I could have a whole month of sitting around going, why should I bother? What's the point? It's all a disaster. And then something will come up and I'll go, I should go and do this.
Yeah.
So one of the best bits of advice I got when I was writing my first novel, a woman who was a very good mentor to me, she said, as soon as you finish your first novel, then you need to start on the second. It's like, but you know, what if no one wants it? She says, it doesn't matter. It was a very powerful thing on a lot of different levels, because it teaches you that you have more than one novel in you. If you have that confidence that you can keep creating, you can take risks, and you could say, I can try and get this published, and maybe the publisher's not fabulous, or it's not the most brilliant person out there, or I can self-publish, or I can just put it out as an article.
So it's the same thing we spoke about before we started this conversation about, you know, if you have to fail forward. Since you mentioned publishing, a lot of my friends would want to know, and even I would like to know, how did you break into publishing? And what is this world?
Self-publishing for me actually came about in a very funny way. It came about with me getting pissed off about something. I wrote my novel about it. It was set in Africa, and I kept sending it out to publishers, and they would come back and say, no one wants to read a book about Africa. And I was like, well, damn it, I'm going to write it. I've got a book about it. I'm going to publish it myself. And so I did a lot of research, and I read a lot of books. And so Chicken Thief I actually self-published first up, and then I sold it to Penguin a few years later. But it was a really good process. It taught me a lot about the publishing industry, because when you self-publish, you have to become your own little publishing house. I don't think you have to do everything yourself, but you have to understand all the things that you have to do. And so I brought in different people. I brought in someone to help me do the cover design. That's another thing I should never be allowed to do, is design my own cover. So I had someone do that. I had lots of people help me with editing. I had so many people read my book, and you know, it could be read, I think probably 20 people read it, and they would still be picking up mistakes. I have so many very, very wonderful friends who read my novel and read other subsequent novels over the years, and that sort of feedback is fantastic. You need people who'll tell you when something is bad, so that when they tell you it's good, you trust them. And I didn't sell a lot of copies of it, but funnily enough, I actually sold more copies self-publishing than I did when I sold working through a publishing house.
That's interesting.
So I looked back and went, actually, I didn't do too badly. Like, well done me.
Puglets, any of you who are wondering about self-publishing or how to get started, I'm going to put all the links in the description of this video, so you can always contact Fiona. Absolutely. And she would love to give you advice on anything related to writing or how to get published. As you can see, she has a lot of information and insight into this world. Fiona, I know that you are a traveler.
Yes.
And you've had an amazing adventurous ride for a year across US, Canada. And basically, I think you've been on 4 different continents in your life, right? So tell us about something which you found similar to all your experiences.
I think the kindness of people, the current state of politics and what's going on at the moment, I think everybody should travel. I think if you sent people out into the world, and before they're allowed to vote, they had to go and visit at least 2 other continents away from themselves, I think it would very much change
the perception and how we look at this world.
Yeah, the fear of the stranger. It's such a sad, it makes me so sad, because there's so much that people miss out on.
It's all made up.
Yeah, I had a... Well,
it's big data.
It is. I had a classic experience of being in North Chattanooga in the US, and talking to this woman, and she said, well, I've never been to South Chattanooga. And we're like, what do you mean? And she says, well, there's a bridge, but I've never been over the bridge to say. I'm like, what the hell? Like, why? And she says, well, everything I need is here. It's like, but don't you ever wonder?
How did you decide to just go on the road?
Now I'm going to sound really irresponsible. Okay.
No.
So, no, you wait till you've heard the story. So, my husband and I, by this stage we were both consulting. We drove our daughter to school one morning. It was November 2008. Obama had just been elected, and so we were driving home from dropping her at school, and we said, wouldn't it be really cool if we went traveling across the US? Like, yeah, I can take pictures and we could look at the first year of the Obama presidency, and then I was like, yeah, and I could write a blog. So we went home. This is about 9 o'clock in the morning. We rang the local real estate agent. We put our house on the market that day. And 7 weeks later, 2 days before the inauguration, we left the country. We had sold our house, a car, motorbike. We'd given away 1 dog. We had the other dog ready to ship. All of our stuff was in storage. And 7 weeks later, we left the country. So from that morning of, wouldn't it be nice if we did all of this stuff?
Puglet,
So we were in Hawaii for Obama's inauguration, and that was the start of our trip. So if we'd thought about it, if we'd planned it, we probably would never have done it. If we'd actually really, really thought about how hard it was going to be, we'd never have done it.
So
but
in that 1 year, did you ever regret it? Or many? No.
I never regretted it. There were plenty of times where you'd go, what the hell are we doing? For some people, planning and saving works really well. We've never been very good at that. We tend to just sort of jump in and then go, oh look, we've only got 10 euros left. Oh well, never mind, we can make it work.
I think I can totally relate to you on this, because this is the kind of life me and my husband are also like living. I mean, although we also understand the importance of saving, and we are not denying it, and we're not saying that no.
And you should do it.
And
you should absolutely save.
Yes, you should absolutely save. But at the same time, we don't want to save money so that we could invest it into something which is like, 10 years later, or which we really don't want.
Yeah, we're not the sort of people who go, well, when we're 60, then we'll travel. We really have that focus of doing the things that we want to do now, doing the things that we're passionate about now, and not waiting till some mythical time in the future. And that's, for us, that's not being irresponsible. Well, it's not
But
entirely.
Yeah.
But it's not being afraid. And I
Exactly.
think that so much of it is fear-based, that
Yeah.
it's having that courage to go, well, let's just try.
Yeah.
Let's see what traveling's like.
So it's so great, like especially for youngsters, I think, like, you know, before they jump into this world where they have to like start working, I think it's so important that you go travel, see different people, what they are doing with their lives, the different kind of work, different kind of crafts
Yeah.
that exists in the world.
It gives you a perspective too, that
Absolutely.
it changes the way you see your own
Absolutely.
your own problems, to see
Exactly.
your own situation,
Yeah,
and makes you appreciate the privilege
True.
that you have. When you just watch things on television, when you watch news broadcasts, you forget that the fundamental things are still there, that, you know, we see a particular country and go, that's a war zone. But there are still people who are falling in love.
Yeah.
There are still people who want to go to school.
Cool.
There are still people who bicker about silly things, or
yeah.
who get up in the morning and they've got a headache, or who have to go and buy toothpaste. Like, all of that humanity goes on in addition to there being a war, or to being a natural disaster, or a good thing happening. And if you only ever see those sound bites on television, you forget that there are people
exactly.
in the midst of a war who are falling in love. There are people who are breaking up, and those very human experiences still go on. And the more you get out and travel, the more you see that. You see those familiar human experiences that you can connect with, because you know that.
So now I have some interesting set of questions which I've asked to my previous guests as well, and
This is the bit where I panic, because I'm like, oh, why didn't she send me these in advance so I could have prepared?
no, because I've got some
That's the proof that this is a spontaneous thing.
not scripted at all.
Absolutely not. See that terror on my face?
So to begin with, what is the one superpower you would like to have?
Learning languages. Oh my goodness.
All the languages?
Yeah, but particularly
Even
German. Yeah, I am struggling with that at the moment. If you had the chance to learn languages early in life, do it. Like, that's my tip for today.
Which is your favorite book?
My favourite book, that's an easy one. The English Patient by Michael Ondaatje, who's a Sri Lankan writer who now lives in Canada.
Okay.
It's a beautiful book, absolutely beautiful.
And your favorite author?
I love Ondaatje's writing.
Okay, I have no clue. You know, you're talking to a non-reader, so I have no clue about.
We need to work on this.
So if you were deserted on an island, and I'll give you 3 choices. Okay, so who would you want to be with? Like, number 1, a fictional character from your book, a fictional character from somebody else's book, like, or President Donald Trump.
Oh my god.
I was waiting for this.
Oh god. I don't know what to say. I'm just speechless at the prospect of being on an island. No, actually, that's a good thing. I am happy to be on an island. If he's with me on the island and he's leaving the rest of the world alone, yes, I will take one for the team.
What is your one-liner view of what is happening right now?
One of the most encouraging articles that I've read saying that rather than this being the end of time, as the end of civilization as we know it, that rather it's the last gasp. Sense of enlightenment, the amount of people who are doing a whole lot of personal work, who are trying to be better people, who are trying to be more empathetic people, who are trying to be more enlightened, is pushing up against these old structures, and the patriarchy and the closed-mindedness is just going, oh my god, like the world is ending. And hopefully that world is ending. Hopefully this is really the last gasp of people going, oh my god, we're giving rights to gays, we're giving rights to different races, we're giving rights to women. Like, what the hell? And I have to hold on to the idea that the people who are protesting, the people who are marching in the street, the people who are donating to organisations are going to triumph in this, and that they're going to come out and go, no, we are not going to stand up to it.
Oh, that was a really nice conversation, Fiona.
Fantastic.
So, Team Puglets, I hope you gained a lot of knowledge out of this episode, and people who are curious about writing have some confidence now. If you have any questions, like I said before, you can always message Fiona or email her. So that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much, Fiona, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been fantastic.
So guys, if you like this video, please give it a big fat thumbs up and comment your thoughts, your feedback. If you have any questions, like I said, share this video with everybody and anybody you know who would benefit from this video. And
Absolutely. Subscribe to our channel.
rise and shine. Skadoosh!